Alright, installing the pulse fitting, you just put a little super glue on the threads or some red Loctite, or it doesn't matter, just something, some kind of an adhesive to lock that in there once you tighten it down. And again, you don't have to crank down on it, just get it in there and give it a little twist with the screwdriver until it stops, and then just a little bit more to snug it up good and tight, and the super glue or Loctite will do the rest. Then you'll slip over the pulse hose and use the hose clamp to tighten it down. Alright, and once the hose clamp's good and tight, make sure your carburetor will seat back up and you haven't interfered with that. It hits flush. Then we'll go to the routing. You want to route it up behind, and you're going to zip tie it to the supply line and plug it in to the fuel pump. And then you take your zip tie, so use the bolt that I sent with it, and that will replace that. Don't crank down on it. Tighten it up till it stops, and then give it, like a quarter turn. Just make sure it's tight. If you get too tight, you'll break the fuel pump housing, and that's not gonna help you out any. All right, so here's the final routing. Here's the final installation for the fuel pump. Make sure all your zip ties are in place. You want to zip tie the pulse line to the fuel line. You see there. Again, fuel line to pulse line, zip tie the same thing there. Make sure there's no kinks. Make sure your clamp is tight. Verify that when the carburetor is fully seated to the head, that all your linkage is free and clear, nothing's binding. That is how everything should be routed. And before you put the air cleaner on, your choke lever back on the carburetor. Make sure that little pin is in there, so when you're articulating things, the choke is actually moving. Then once that's sitting there like that, you can put your air cleaner housing back on again. Make sure that the breather tube is plugged in there. And you can put your air plenum back on again. And mine's a little different because I don't have a pull start. I have my my bolts. They're a little easier to work with, but yeah, you'll have to put your pull start back in there again, reinstall your choke bracket to the plenum to reinstall all that and finish it up. But there's your fuel system. So, all right, guys, there you go.